Nearly every classic mobile game I can think of was so popular at one point that its creators had no choice. They have a ton of fans wanting more, which means they have to make a sequel. Some games like Dumb Ways to Die 2 came out right away, while others like Temple Run were long awaited and highly anticipated. It's honestly the sweet spot, the perfect time for a sequel. Unlike some games such as Doodle Jump releasing a sequel a whopping 11 years later. At that point, there's no secret. Clearly you're just trying to revitalize a dead franchise. Regardless, most of the first games in the series we'll be covering are beloved, and it'd be sacrilegious to taint that. So have they? Which of these sequels stuck the landing and are even considered better than their predecessor? And which ones fell short, or in some extreme cases, actually ruined the reputation of their series? Well, I'd like to find out, so here's the plan. We'll go through a myriad of classic mobile games, reminding ourselves of the original, then try their sequels, see how they compare, and keep moving on game to game. Hopefully by the end we'll find the cream of the crop, and call it the worst of the slop. Let's get started. We're gonna start with Fruit Ninja and its sequel, but first let's just talk about what counts as a sequel. Take a series like Angry Birds with a huge list of games, like Angry Birds Seasons or Space. Well, technically, it has just a single sequel, Angry Birds 2. Basically, if the games are numbered, it counts. We can cover Cut the Rope 2 and 3, Plants vs. Zombies 2 and 3, but only Where's My Water 2, not Where's My Mickey or Perry. I would love to do an entire separate video on mobile game spin-offs in the future, where those would apply. Please let me know if you want to see that. Anyways, let's play some Fruit Ninja. There's not a whole lot going on in the first game, so I'm super curious how a sequel could even step it up a notch. The whole game is slicing fruit and trying to get a high score. Other than adding new fruit or obstacles, it already doesn't feel like it needs a sequel. I'm already under the impression it's going to fail. So starting out, the game gives you a little tutorial on some of the gimmicks of the game. Different modes, even PvP stuff, which is definitely a unique idea that gives the sequel some sort of merit. But then there's also loot boxes and battle passes and tons of cosmetics I truly do not care about at all. However, once we play a bit of the arcade mode, events are unlocked, and these are the real gem of this game in my opinion. I don't really care much about PvP Fruit Ninja, and I could just play the first game if I like the core gameplay, but the events are so varied. A little minigame rush where hitting a bomb at any time ruins the whole run. And of course, my favorite thing to do in this game, Fruitar Hero. A very smart idea, even if it is just completely ripping off rhythm games. I played this game like 2 years ago and remember being really annoyed by it. Why do we need cosmetics and battle passes and Fruit Ninja? Why? But I think this is completely harmless and actually offers a lot of fun new ways to play. If you like the core gameplay of the first game, you're not gonna beat that, and I think Half-Break understood that when they made the sequel. They're adding new ways to play, which probably could have been added in the first game instead, but they've chosen not to taint that experience with these new ideas, and I really appreciate that too. Honestly, I can't think of a better way to make a new Fruit Ninja game. Maybe an epic story mode is the only other option, but they've done a good job. It's not better than the first game, but it is a decent sequel. Next, I want to play Cut the Rope. I love the first game a lot, and it received multiple spin-off pseudo-sequels before they finally made Cut the Rope 2. Then they went balls to the walls, making everything from an endless runner game to a bubble-popping game, and kinda abandoned the core gameplay for a while. Until finally, only 2 years ago, Cut the Rope 3 released. Yeah, did you know that? Crazy. I also want to mention how many years between games there were. It says a lot about their sequels. For example, Fruit Ninja came out in 2010, and in 2020 they made the second one. Being 10 years apart only makes the sequel look more disappointing, but I stand by the placement I gave it. The first Cut the Rope game also came out in 2010, and the sequel released in 2013. That seems like a fair amount of time, especially because experiments and time travel came out between these titles. However, 10 years between the second and third game is quite a bit more jarring. Anyways, the original game really has it all. Every level pack has a unique theme with multiple new mechanics each time that only build off one another as they go. Collecting 3 stars on every stage is a blast from beginning to end, and in my opinion, never unfair or unsolvable. The level design is great all the way through, the game is simple, to the point, and will always be one of my favorite mobile puzzle games ever made. That is going to be tough to beat for sure, so what does Cut the Rope 2 have to offer? Well, Omnom has escaped his box and is now out in the wild. In the first game, Omnom is completely stationary, while here a main mechanic is to make him move around the stage. Each level pack also introduces a new friend, such as Roto. He can fly around and pick up objects. There's also Blue, who can duplicate himself indefinitely, or even Ginger, a sentient ball of fire who sacrifices himself to win each level. These little buddies add a lot of charm and personality to these levels, rather than just adding a spring mechanic or something instead of a character. I think the level design and themes are pretty fun here too, and I enjoy the game, but my biggest gripe with this game are the new medals you can earn. Each level has a set of bonus challenges, ranging from collecting no stars, beating a stage within the time limit, or even collecting enough fruit throughout the level. These add a layer of challenge to each level, forcing you to play it in a completely new way, but are also incredibly unfair at times. The physics of this game can almost feel random, with the candy and Om being able to bounce around the stage in strange ways. Collecting all the fruit in a level like this is a nightmare. Oh yeah, and it's only made worse by the energy system. Yeah, you heard me right. A puzzle game where you're meant to experiment and try different solutions? Yeah, let's fight you on that as you try to play. Let's keep you from enjoying our game. How fun! In the end, it ruins my experience of playing Cutthroat 2. I genuinely dislike this game, but it is a lot different than the first game, I can't deny that. A game like Cutthroat Experiments feels more like a direct follow-up to the first game, while Cutthroat 2 is almost like a brand new experience. It is certainly not better than the first game, but it is a warranted sequel. Sometime between this game and Cutthroat 3, Omnom meets Omnell, has sex and brings Nibblenom into the world, and now Nibblenom replaces the candy in each level. So, Omnom is eating his son then? Is that what you're telling me? Nah, Omnom's a good dad, I guess. We're just on an adventure. Now that the candy is sentient, this opens the door for more movement options and mechanics. Nibblenom grabs onto stuff and they try to make use of this concept as much as they can. There's a few different locations to visit too, with new gimmicks found in each region. And of course, they've taken the jump from 2D to 3D, which is fine, it's a pretty nice looking game, but I definitely prefer the original's art style. The third game is a decent puzzle game, honestly. I enjoyed it a lot more than the second game, even if there is just a lot less going on here. But that feeling kind of makes this game have a lack of identity. It doesn't really feel like it has a reason to exist. It's not adding or changing enough to feel different. Any of these levels could have appeared in the first or second game and it would have fit right in. I like Cutthroat 3, I had fun while I played it, but it truly does not need to exist, and in my opinion, does not warrant a brand new sequel. Now we've got games in the middle and the bottom. Now let's hope we can find something that's better sometime soon. The Hungry Shark games are the only series on our list today that aren't called like Hungry Shark 2 or something. They began with Hungry Shark Evolution in 2012 and released Hungry Shark World in 2015, only 3 years later. They've made spin-offs like Hungry Dragon as well, but the Hungry Shark titles do feel like their own series. Every once in a while, I miss Hungry Shark Evolution, and it's one of the main reasons I wanted to include it in today's video. You literally just get to play as a shark and devour as many fish and people as you possibly can. The longer you play, the harder it gets to survive, and eventually you run out of health and end your run. There's tons of upgrades you can buy for each shark, on top of tons and tons of different playable sea creatures. Most of them are sharks, yeah, but clearly they've gone outside the box for some of these. Sharks are just badass. Swimming around and eating everything in sight and unlocking bigger and bigger creatures is a blast all the way through, leading to one of my favorite classic mobile game experiences unlike any other. Now, Hungry Shark World has the same core gameplay and ideas, but set in new locations and a new art style and plenty of new sharks to try. There's a lot more to do, I feel, but again, the gameplay idea is kept identical. I do feel that rounds just last longer in Evolution most of the time, while World focuses on more shorter, faster, and hectic runs. I guess it's a matter of personal preference in that case. Which art style do you like better? Which form of gameplay do you prefer? Fast-paced or slow and steady? There's not necessarily a right answer here, and I think they're both fun for their own reasons. But my favorite Hungry Shark game is the console version of World. In it, you unlock each shark organically by playing a few rounds as each new shark to level up and upgrade them. It is a constant spree of trying out new, awesome sharks and unlocking new ones before you can get bored of the last one. And with a few varied locations to visit, it really stays exciting all the way through. I don't think Hungry Shark World is different enough for me to say it is definitively a proper warranted sequel to the first game, but it's personally such a fun experience for me that I'm okay with them simply making a new game. Both Evolution and World still get updated, they're both treated as their own entries, and I think that alone solidifies their coexistence in my mind. Hungry Shark World is a great game that separates itself enough from the first game that I'm considering it a worthy sequel. Congratulations. I do not have high hopes for Talking Tomcat though. This series is truly insane. Do you have any idea how many spin-offs there are? They started simple with Talking Ben and Talking Angela, and then we got Gold Run, and then we got Jet Ski, and then we got Hero Dash and a coloring book and just a bunch of others. But in terms of the technically mainline games, there's Talking Tomcat and Talking Tomcat 2, released only 1 year apart. I truly don't know what they could add to a game like this that's going to impress me. The original Talking Tom game is fine. He repeats the random shit you say to him.
I just want to die.
You slap the shit out of him, torture him a little, he begs you to stop, but there's nothing else to do in this game, so just continue to make his life a living hell. It's a fine, but not all that fulfilling time.
Please, please, whatever you do, don't punch me in the penis, please.
So, what does Talking Tom 2 add to this?
Everyone watching, please invite your parents into the room and then play this.
Well, it looks worse, that's for sure. Ben sometimes shows up and messes with him, there's new animations, he can show you a picture of his dead son.
Check out this cool photo of my dead son.
And otherwise, this is literally it. I'm surprised they didn't make a third, fourth, and fifth game if they were going to change so little about it. I'm already not crazy about the original game, and the second game is arguably worse. Let's move on quickly. I used to play Jetpack Joyride a ton as a kid, so I hold it very close to my heart. It's also just incredibly badass. Your jetpack is a gun, how awesome is that? Each round you start out slow, dodging a few obstacles, and as it gets faster and faster, your ability to dodge and weave only becomes more difficult. You want to shoot for high scores, complete missions to level up, and upgrade your abilities to keep doing better. It's all very simple, straightforward, and incredibly addicting. So what can a sequel do? Bring us to a new location with more upgrades and more obstacles? Well, Jetpack Joyride 2 basically retools the entire game. 11 years after the first one, Apple Arcade got Haptic to make an exclusive title for their service. The first thing you notice is the graphics. I love the pixelated style of the first one, and it's just less charming to be normal here. Rather than only having a gun as a jetpack, we now have a weapon. Attacking enemies is a huge part of this game now, and we can even take a few hits ourselves. There's still upgrades and endless modes available, but the main game is level-based. Each level you have to go further than the last. So the first level is to get to 600 meters, the next level is 700. It only gets longer and more difficult the more levels you beat. It's incredibly smart, I can't lie. But it is very different feeling than the first. My first impressions weren't very high, but then I learned you can play as Betty instead. S tier. Oh wait, wrong video. What I mean to say is this game starts to grow on you, and there's a ton of new stuff, including boss fights, something that really wouldn't work in the first game. Jetpack Joyride 2 keeps the same core gameplay, but is still very different. I love the first game, and I don't think I can say this is a better game, but as a sequel, I firmly believe they've done a great job and have created something that can stand on its own. I feel like people sleep on hill climb racing. It's sort of a similar idea to Jetpack Joyride in a way. Each level is endless, but the more you upgrade your vehicles, the further you can go. I played this game a lot as a kid, but I don't have that account anymore. So all I have is the most basic vehicle on the first couple levels. But it's really fun getting all the vehicles, seeing which ones are best for each level, and going as far as you possibly can on each and every one. What would I want in a sequel? Probably some better graphics, they're charming but not mind-blowing, and probably a racing element now that I think about it. The first game is just hill climbing, I want to actually race people. And hey, would you look at that? The sequel gives us exactly what we asked for. However, sometimes you gotta be careful what you wish for. I do think the game looks pretty good, you got me there, and racing people can be fun for sure, but in a game about upgrading your vehicles and only getting better and better ones as you go, is this just completely pay to win? Is there much of any skill involved in this game? And these races are so boring too. I played for like half an hour just holding the gas button and putting zero thought into any of it. Hill Climb Racing 2 is so different, it might as well be a completely different series. And in that way, I guess it warrants its own existence, but it is not a sequel to Hill Climb Racing. That much I can say with confidence. Doodle Jump 2 is probably the worst sequel in this video, and I'll explain why in a second. But first, we gotta remind ourselves what the first game is like. You play as the Doodler, jumping from platform to platform by tilting your phone. There are springs and trampolines to gain more height, and enemies to shoot or stomp on. Over the years, they added a ton of themes too. Most of them are nothing more than a visual change, but it really helps spice up the gameplay. Just watching this footage feels so different each time there's a new background. But they give you all these level themes for free, and if you enjoy the game you can spend coins on costumes and items if you want, but it's totally optional. A whopping 11 years later, when the Doodle Jump franchise felt pretty dead already, we got Doodle Jump 2 out of nowhere. After 11 years, this is probably going to add a lot, isn't it? Oh wait, I forgot, it's just literally the same game! The big difference is now you have to collect stars to unlock the next theme, which is fun and not that tough at first, but eventually you need 500 stars to unlock the music theme. This is just a damn normal level but with music notes on it. The original game gave you new themes for free, so having to unlock them now just feels cruel. And either way, this is the whole thing. Doodle Jump 2 doesn't evolve the series even a little. It is just more Doodle Jump with less level themes than the first. There's zero reason to play this game at all. That's why, in my opinion, it's the worst sequel of the video, because it feels like they didn't even try. What were they doing for the past decade? What a shame. We're now halfway through the games and I'm already noticing a trend. What do mobile game sequels do? They add new maps, they add new characters, there's events, loot boxes, and battle passes, and any sort of tactic possible to keep players playing their game. The first games are so often superior because they weren't so greedy yet. And trust me, if you think any of these other games feel scummy, we have yet to try Temple Run, Where's My Water, and freaking Angry Birds. Every issue I just mentioned about mobile game sequels are the embodiment of the Temple Run games. What did we get in the first entry? An endless runner set in a spooky temple with demon monkeys chasing you down these never-ending paths. There aren't a ton of obstacles, the game is incredibly simple and to the point, but it's fun and exciting. And in less than a minute you are already running so fast it's difficult to keep up. And then the second game multiplied every aspect of the first one. A couple characters? Now we have 100, half of which feeling completely out of place in this world. Hold on, was that Usain Bolt? Lots of new locations, which I will admit was needed for a sequel to this game. They're pretty decent, and a lot of them even feature unique sections like this minecart area. The new maps are without a doubt the highlight of Temple Run 2, and Scarlett's actress truly deserves an Oscar for her role. But the worst part? The gameplay. It's exactly the same, tilting your phone to move left and right while swiping to jump or duck, but the problem is that it's incredibly slow, revealing the creator's evil little twist here. The first game has short but high-speed rounds, and even a decent player might only make it for 5 to 10 minutes at most. Meanwhile, after 5 minutes of this crappy game, my character is still taking his sweet old time. I thought this was Temple Run, not Temple Brisk Jog. They want you to have longer rounds, play their game for double the time, and also shovel loot boxes, battle passes, and all the other horrible tropes we've come to expect by now down our throats. I simply cannot ever enjoy this game because it's so incredibly slow compared to the first one. And for that reason, I'd rather run on the same map over and over and over than try out a single new one in Temple Run 2. It's not a worthless sequel, but it is not even close to as good as the first one. Do you guys remember Rolling Sky? It's probably one of the least popular mobile games on our list today, but it was still pretty big when it came out. You play as a little ball, simply sliding left and right with your finger to dodge obstacles. It's slightly connected to the music, which is all very erratic and fast paced. It's honestly a pretty fun time for how simplistic it is, and there's a lot of different levels. But they all sort of blend together, even with unique level themes and obstacles in each one. They just feel the same, blocky and simple. So moving to Rolling Sky 2, yes, that's correct, I am currently playing the sequel to Rolling Sky. To be fair, it's made by a completely different developer, but we are no longer a ball rolling on squares, we are a person jumping on stars or running across a piano. We really stepped things up, this is a huge evolution. The music is no longer techno crap, and in fact, most levels feature a specific genre. One is literally just called jazz. Each level is fully orchestrated now, and part of the reason to play is for the music, rather than just the platforming. In some sections of the levels, you can see the inspiration from the first game pretty clearly, while other times I have a hard time believing this has anything to do with the first game. While this doesn't feel like the natural next step for the Rolling Sky series, and I don't think anyone could have truly expected this, it's a great game, and in my mind, completely overshadows the original. It is no longer about a generic ball in a geometric void. There's characters and stories here that have so much more work put into them. There's not a lot of levels, I'm pretty sure this game died almost instantly after being released, but it deserves the love, and it is 100% a superior sequel. As a kid, I loved the Dumb Ways to Die song much more than the actual game. The whole series started as a PSA for Metro safety, but there's still new games being made that pretty much abandon that entire idea. The first game is basically a WarioWare clone, with micro games to beat one after another and the rounds getting faster and faster the longer you play. I like the world and characters and personality of this game. It's honestly not that special, but fairly charming nonetheless. I will say, ads play in between rounds, which is a huge no-no to me. You're gonna interrupt your own game to make me watch an ad? I'm not gonna freaking play your stupid game then, asshole! If the sequel changes that, it's instantly better, no question. The first game came out in 2013, with the sequel releasing the following year. The animations are quite a bit nicer, and I found the minigames to be a bit more challenging too. It's themed around the Olympics, and most of them are sports themed in some way. But other than using tilt controls, this game doesn't add enough new features to make it a groundbreaking sequel, but I'd say it warrants its own existence. Oh, and there are still ads between levels, so there's no improvements on that front. Then, 3 years later, we got the third entry, completely jumping the shark. This does not feel like the third game in the series we were just playing. The whole game is vertical now, and there's no micro games, just a handful of regular old mini games. The simple little rounds we had were fine not being very fleshed out, they're short and to the point. Now when the games feel underbaked, it's obvious because we're trying to play them for as long as we can. There's also a town building aspect and you can upgrade your characters, and it's all just very confusing for a dumb ways to die game. It's a lot different from the other games, but almost exclusively in a bad way, and it's just copying a bunch of popular mobile games from that time. I don't think this game should exist, and it's certainly the worst in the series. But we're not done. Just 2 years ago and 6 years after the third game, they released the long-awaited fourth entry, which goes back to the good old days with more micro games than ever before. And I gotta say, the animations are the best in the series. The characters are really expressive and fluid. It almost feels simpler than both the first and second game, which is sort of strange. But that's all that really needs to be said right there. This just feels like more of the first two games. It offers no improvements or anything new at all. It's just more of the same. I appreciate them actually making this one another WarioWare style game unlike the third one, but it's just not needed. And it'll also be going alongside the third game at the bottom here. The best Dumb Ways to Die game is the second one, hands down. It has the most content and the best minigames, and don't bother downloading the others because they offer nothing new. I think it's incredibly surprising the first big Disney mobile game didn't feature Mickey Mouse or a famous Disney character. It stands completely on its own, and it's all the better because of it. Now, eventually, we also got Where's My Perry and Mickey, so it didn't last forever, but for a time it was cool to get this mobile game mascot Swampy in this really fun new puzzle game. The highlight of Where's My Water is the water itself. The water physics are incredible, and the level designs built around this mechanic are incredibly smart. It's a blast trying to get all the ducks in every level, and each chapter has a game-changing mechanic that is constantly keeping you hooked. I love this game, and the idea of a sequel was kind of a dream. The entire lifespan of the series lasted about 3 years in total, so 5 big new games and a couple smaller titles is pretty impressive in that short time frame. Where's My Water 2 came out after Perry and Mickey, so it's safe to say that I've learned a lot from those games and have a ton of new ideas for their sequel. And well, you'd be an idiot to think something like that. If you played through every single level in this game, you'll find it only reintroduces the mechanics from the first game, rather than making new ones. Almost every single idea here was already done in the past, only this time it's worse. They force you to collect ducks to progress, and you have to play all the challenges to do so. Each level has like 4 challenges, so you're replaying the same levels over and over again if you want to unlock the new ones. Some of the new challenges are fun and feature Swampy's friends much more prominently, but a lot of the challenges just suck and ruin the smart level design. The first game feels carefully crafted and tailored for a fun experience. The second game feels like a slog that was designed by complete buffoons. I am not a fan of Where's My Water 2, and I'm glad they barely added anything so I can place it at the bottom where it belongs. Fuck you, Swampy! Well, next is Angry Birds. I think everyone watching might already know how this section's gonna go, but let's cover it anyways. The first Angry Birds game has some of the best level design in the series, because it was the first. Things were still simple and small, and there's so much joy in figuring out the exact way to earn 3 stars, or getting to try a new bird for the first time, or unlocking a new chapter and playing the new levels in that theme. I will always love the first Angry Birds game, and a lot of people would agree. They released Angry Birds Seasons and Rio pretty soon after this, and both games don't really evolve the game in any way. They are more of the same, and that's really all there is to it. It's weird to even consider them spin-offs, they just feel like continuations more than anything. So when it came to making a sequel 6 years later, they actually went into it ready to make something new. Angry Birds 2 is a very different experience, and for its core gameplay, I've always really enjoyed it. In each level you have multiple stages to beat. Each time you launch a bird, you have a couple options to choose from. You can pick what you think will help most in the scenario you're facing. The better you do, the less birds you waste, the more chances you have to beat each level. One of the first big problems is, these levels are not handcrafted like a typical Angry Birds game. It's made to be endless. They want you to play this game for life. I played 1,000 levels and I'm nowhere close to done with it. I doubt there are many people out there who have played this game for 1,000 levels, dude. I really committed. Over the years, they've added events and cosmetics and a ton more ways to make this something you play every single day, to upgrade your characters and fight online and a bunch of other stuff. It is a massive game with a never-ending supply of things to do, and remember the first game? Look at a level from here and then a level here. Look at the main menu in comparison. Angry Birds 2 is as saturated of an experience you could possibly imagine, the embodiment of Rovio's modern greed and the downfall of the series as a whole. I don't think Angry Birds 2 is even that bad of a game. It can be pretty fun, but I'm not going to pretend it's not evil incarnate. When I played, I never bothered with daily events, I just played the levels for fun, and I think that's the best way to do it. Angry Birds 2 doesn't belong at the bottom with Where's My Water or Doodle Jump. It is entirely different from the first game, but it would be a sin to even consider it being placed at the top. We've covered so many games now that are so obviously corrupted by greed and crappy mobile game business practices, so let's take a break from all that and play the indie game that just so happens to be on your phone, Monument Valley. There's 3 of these games now, so we can cover the whole series here. If you know anything about these games, then you know the original is genuinely one of the best experiences to ever be released on mobile. It doesn't feel like a mobile game at all. It's just an actual game with effort, love, and beauty throughout the entire thing. The simplest way to describe it is a puzzle game with a lot of the puzzles resulting in optical illusions of pathways that don't logically make sense. You can manipulate the world in such a mind-bending way that it's incredibly satisfying to solve each level. It brings a smile to my face with each cool new addition. It's a wonderful game, and I'd be sorry for the creators of the sequel. I'd have a hard time imagining it's possible to match the magic of this game. 3 years later, we get to experience that sequel. And let me tell you, having more Monument Valley was a blessing unlike any other. The very first level has it all fall apart in front of you, separating the parent and their kid as you fall. It's a great opening to this game. A lot of the levels revolve around the 2 characters being controlled, but there's also solo levels akin to the first game. Each level is much longer too, the game just feels more fleshed out in comparison. However, I think there's an argument to be made that the second game deserves to be placed in the should not exist section. We've put other games there for refusing to innovate the series, and at its core, Monument Valley 2 doesn't shake up the gameplay much from the first. But it's definitely more beautiful. There's a lot of emotion conveyed between the 2 main characters, and as I played it, I really felt like I was playing a proper sequel to the first. I think it helps to play these games back to back like this, because like I said, on paper Monument Valley 2 isn't that different, but playing it is a great experience and I know it belongs at the top. Now this year, Monument Valley released as a Netflix exclusive game. They helped make the 3rd game possible, which is awesome, but it also definitely leads to the biggest problem with this game. But first, let's just enjoy the new levels, because these concepts are some of the best in the series. There's these paper sections early on that are really fun and unlike any other sections in these games. The few levels here are amazing, but that's the problem. They're mixed into these sailing portions. Basically, there's a hub world of sorts, where you drive around in a boat and complete tiny islands. Then every now and again you play an actual Monument Valley level. The boat sections just pad out the game unnecessarily. And then after 5 levels or so, the game shows you this: seasonal update coming soon. Now, I played the update, and it had an awesome tree level that's one of my favorite in the series history, but leading up to that, you drive around on the boat for 25 minutes doing fetch quests. It's completely pointless. And seasonal updates are frustrating. That's Netflix trying to get you to keep your subscription so you can play this game over a year's time, rather than in one sitting. Again, some of these levels are peak Monument Valley, but the rest of the experience is tainted. I have to place the 3rd game at the bottom, and I really wish I didn't. Our last game to cover is Plants vs. Zombies. Also, a lot of the footage here is from my nuts video I just made. That'll explain why there's so many walnut variants in these clips. Anyways, I'm honestly not a huge tower defense guy, but Plants vs. Zombies feels like so much more than that for me. I think the plants themselves make it such an entertaining experience. Not only does each one have a fun design and personality, but they each do something unique. Unlocking each plant and finding new strategies to incorporate them into is the greatest joy of the series. And new zombie types that change the way the game is played helps keep things fresh from start to finish. It's just a well-crafted game, and I'm gonna be real with you right now, it's easily my favorite game in the series and no sequel or spin-off has topped it since. But let's take a critical and real look at Plants vs. Zombies 2, releasing about 4 years later. The first game was on PC first, but PVC 2 is a mobile-only experience, and each world is themed around a new time period, making for a completely different experience each time. The new environments, zombies, and plants force you to try new things, and just make the campaign really fun. Now, this game still gets updated, mostly with new plants and events. There's hundreds of plants now, and it's a little oversaturated for sure, but definitely makes your experience of playing unique to every single player out there. It's similar to Angry Birds 2, where you can play PvP or upgrade your plants forever and ever, or you can just play the main game and call it quits. It's your choice. I think there's a lot of great stuff in the second game, and even if it isn't as good as the first, aren't you happy it exists at all? I think it added a lot and undoubtedly shaped the future of the series. Who knows what the hell Zack Scott would have done with his life without this game? So it's solidly in that middle section then, and I wouldn't argue with anyone who enjoys it more. And then there's Plants vs. Zombies 3. What a mess of a game. They've been trying to release a version of it for what, 6 years now? It started with this vertical version with 3D graphics and a pretty drastic change to the gameplay formula. I personally never played that version, so maybe it's not my place to judge it, but I did play Welcome to Zombarbia, the newest version. The highlight for me is the art style. People debate on it all the time, but I'm personally a fan. But the gameplay? It is a boring ass game, dude. There's just hundreds and hundreds of levels, a lot of which are not that different from the last. You get new plants very infrequently for how many levels there are. It honestly doesn't make sense to me. Every level in the first Plants vs. Zombies game feels tailored to the player's experience, and you get a new plant almost every level. Instead, PvZ 3 has 50 levels in a row with a couple new mechanics here and there that all last 30 seconds to a minute. It's exhausting, and it needs such a drastic change. The game has been taken down for like the third time so they can rework everything again. This game has problems, man, and the worst one is, it's not fun. Or arguably, it doesn't even feel like the same franchise anymore. It's bad and it should not exist, which is ironic because currently it doesn't exist. So what did we learn today? Can mobile games pull off a good sequel? Sometimes, I guess. Clearly most of the time they just make an okay sequel, or at least something that justifies another game in the series. But it's so rare to find a mobile game sequel that's better than the last, at least from our examples today. Keep in mind these are some of the biggest mobile game franchises of all time. Of course the developers always got greedy and things went downhill. I'd love to check out more examples of mobile game sequels in the future, and hopefully find more that I have positive things to say about for a change. Let me know what your favorite ones would be, even games outside the ones we covered today. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about how this video turned out. Sometimes I get very insecure about my ability to make videos like this, so please let me know what you think. Any criticisms or recommendations for ways to improve would be greatly appreciated. Thank you to my channel members Patrick Barajan, Keep, Gall Guy, Jeb the Legend, Cheaper Ying, Test Monkey, Callum Ford, Perskib and Enter Checky, Timor, Kurnov, Aaron the Ghoul, Freakish Mile, Ceramic Tiger, Geminot, Lewis, Lavatane, Green Man Yeah, McCrazy, Bright Streak, Dante, Skibbity, MGR Damadan, Einherjar, Jonathan Biscoff, Sleepy Boy 74, F. Burke Ukar, and Yassine. Sorry if I mispronounced either of the newest ones. Let me know how your names are pronounced. I didn't rewatch my old classic mobile game sequels video while working on this, so I'm really curious how much my opinions have changed on things. I know I hated Fruit Ninja 2 and loved Where's My Water 2, so that's a complete flip. But it is really strange to think about how much different I feel about these games. My character arc over the last few years has been crazy.